Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind, episode number 48.
I really believe that we can bring our kids with us as we as moms learn how to step into our purposes and passions. I think the days are going to get harder, and our kids need to really see and watch us experience how to be in the family and also out in the world.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Jennifer Lamprey. She is a mother of 3 girls. She likes to educate by being real and sharing her experiences. She's the CEO of I Love My Body Diet and co-founder of No Porn Club. She's the president of Hearts Knit, partner in Mastermind Nation, and the founder and co-creator of Money Manifesting Shield. She believes that one soul is great and believes by focusing on the one, we're focusing on supporting millions. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be on. I appreciate it, Rebecca.
Sounds like we're going to be discussing a lot of fun topics that our audience is going to find hopefully encouraging and strengthening their own family. Do you just kind of want to briefly tell us a little bit more about yourself, family, hobbies,
Sure.
profession?
Thanks. Yeah, first I just want to apologize for my voice. I am a little sick, so I've lost my voice. But my family, I am one of 3 kids. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go into real detail. I won't do that to you guys, but I actually am on my second marriage. I have 3 daughters, one with my husband now and 2 from their dad. And so I am a very happy mom. I love girls. I love having my girls. I'm scared of boys. It's scared. So yeah, I've been a tennis player my whole life. So, since I was 18, I started and I worked really hard at that. So that's probably my top hobby. And I really am a lover of people. I mean, I'm a freak for collaboration and community. And it's just a huge part of my existence. So I'm one of those people at high school that were friends with every group. I was friends with the Indian, Mexican, the popular, ASB, the stoners, I was friends with everybody. So that's really who I am. I love every person out there. And as far as, and really passion, my passion is doing stuff with my husband. We do a lot of work together, and our focus is to support families. So I really work day in and day out with my family to support those that are struggling with issues around addiction, sexual addictions, and also I just get out there and share whatever inspirations come, we share. So yeah, I have a lot of things I could talk about, but...
Well, and we've kind of mentioned a few of your businesses, and maybe we should go through those and what each one of those entail.
Yeah.
And how they help families.
Okay, thank you. So one of the main things I'm doing right now, and I was inspired with in December, is the I Love My Body Diet. That's actually real exciting movement that's happening. It's not a diet or exercise. It's actually all around loving ourselves more. And so I do that. We have it's a 30-day program women step into. I created a workbook. Actually, co-created it with God. It really is an inspired work, day-to-day exercises, and they lend themselves together to support every woman who steps in to really go a little deeper, but in a loving, safe environment. So we have a Facebook group page, private Facebook group pages. We're stepping into facilitators, and we're going to be having, my goal is to have 15 groups of 30 every month and to have 1 million women strong by 2020. So it's a really amazing environment. We have over 100 and something women that have gone through just since December, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is a lot because you're doing a lot of work, meaning self-discovery and healing. And so that's one of my loves right now. My husband actually just started I Love My Body Diet for Men, which is kind of funny. So not funny, meaning he didn't think you would do something like that because he said, who's going to want to do I Love My Body Diet for Men? I mean, come on. You can't say that as a man. His ego side was like, this can't happen. But he just decided, and 2 days later, they started a group, and he has about 7 men in that. So that really for me, I've seen one of the main things I've seen in that as far as families and connecting families is I've worked in 12-step recovery for quite a while now. My husband and I facilitate a 12-step pornography couples group in our church. And so we are actually missionaries, part-time missionaries for that. We actually asked for that calling. And so we've been working in that for about 3 years and have seen a lot of success for couples and just healing and recovery in the 12 steps. We also have a phone call that we do. But what we have found over the years, and as we've been speaking in different areas, that there's a real fear around the pornography talk. So we are pretty bold. I also do the No Porn Club, which is a podcast and also a space where we want to have all of these other organizations' voices come out. It's one section of my life that we do, and there's not tons of movement in that because I think there's still a lot of fear for people to step into that and really own it. But while we were going through this process, my husband and I have been praying and asking for other avenues to be able to help support people at the deeper levels of healing and understanding how to truly become one with themselves and God and to release certain negative beliefs and addictions and patterns and stuff. So that's where the I Love My Body diet came from. Whew, I also have there's a lot. I do a mastermind. I'm a masterminder. I facilitate mastermind groups, and we're starting an online mastermind. It's called My Mastermind Nation.
Do you want to kind of explain what mastermind is?
Masterminds are actually, I actually feel like people already do masterminds. They just don't know it. I was introduced about 6 years ago when I was divorced. I was with 2 little kids and trying to figure out my way and started a business and was invited to my first mastermind. And it's a different type of mastermind than maybe a lot of people see out there. We went into a group environment. There were 12 of us. And what happens is you basically step into a being state, a safe environment where you can come in with your business, your purposes. You don't necessarily collaborate with other people in your business, but you support everyone and they support you in your purposes, missions, and desires in the world. And you get to have time to really plan out at different stages through the mastermind what you want this to look like. And then you have people supporting you in that space. So we have calls, a free call that we do on Tuesday nights where we have a love seater, we call them. And basically they get to give us some time of what they want out of the group. And then they get to be quiet for the rest of the time. And then the group actually one by one will share ideas and inspirations, connections, things that they might have to support that person. So really what it does is it allows that person to really move forward fast in an accelerated way. And then they choose maybe some top things that they want to move forward with, and then they get support within the group for those things. So everyone gets to have their mastermind. Napoleon Hill actually coined basically that phrase in his Think and Grow Rich. So that has been literally, I think of masterminding, maybe not in the complete structure of what I do when I facilitate an actual group, but I bring that energy and that belief into everything I do. It infiltrates, I don't know if you want to use that word, but it really infuses everything. I feel like moms should be having masterminds. We kind of do. We talk about what we're doing and how we can help support one another. Schools, teachers, kids. My kids, we've had little masterminds with my kids about what they want to do and we share with them. But yeah, so there's a lot more to that, but it's something that I really am passionate about.
Well, and we were talking before we started recording that masterminding actually helps lead to a lot of personal inspiration. Just listening to other people's ideas and the directions that they want to move their life can help you move forward in yours in a positive direction. Is that kind of...
Yeah, definitely. I think the point is that we're edified together. So what happens is when you're focused on the one, that's why I talk about that when you did the bio, I talk about the one. When you're focused on the one, you actually are supporting yourself more than you can ever imagine. And everybody can take a piece of that. So for instance, if you're talking about somebody's business, they have a couple of things that they really want focused on. All these ideas will come up. And through just the channel of charity and service, it allows for, I believe, greater inspirations that actually may not have even been created in the world yet. I really feel that that's a space where trend setting even begins, where we can be either on top of a trend or even start a trend because you're coming together in that type of heart-centered service oriented way that, and in your business, it really can accelerate that for everyone. Everyone's edified. It's one of my favorite spaces to be in. So,
well, and it kind of sounds like, we haven't talked about Hearts Knit, the president of Hearts Knit, but it kind of sounds like many of your things that you work on are actually healing the whole person, and then that affects every area of your life. Is that kind of what?
Yes, definitely. Well, and that's what the I Love My Body diet is too. Hearts Knit actually is that's a whole nother story, but that started about a year ago, and that kind of changed some trajectory in my life. There's 6 of us, and we switch around. So I asked to see if anybody wanted to start writing together. That was actually how it started. And then women showed up, and we met every Monday and started collaborating on writing books. And so we've been in the process of writing these books. We're stewards over specific books, and we are going to be moving that out in the next months. We've had workshops. But what's cool is that we learned how to come together as 6 women with prayer and with intention, and to create things in a way that there isn't. So I say that, I use that I'm the president because we nominated one another for different specific areas of like a role. But really, we're all one in this company. And so that's why we call it Hearts Knit. We want everybody to feel that they are one. And so we're actually working on having people even publish under us, and that we all can, publish with us, and also to just build this Christ-centered understanding of the world, really. I mean, we talk about energy healing. We talk about different forms of healing in our books. And I don't know, that was a really neat, that was actually, I think, what started me in learning how to collaborate online. I have all my businesses online on Facebook. I use Facebook for everything right now, and it's been hugely successful for me. I'm a big believer in social media. I use it all for good. So
yeah, it is a fun way to connect with people that have the same ideas and values and, those types of things. So
get to reach out. And I think what happens through that is we get to actually touch base with who we really are inside, as we get to meet so many different people with certain things that are similar to ours. I become more whole by experiencing this online thing. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing, actually. So
it probably allows you to spend, you said your husband's involved, and obviously more family time where you're not having to go out to an office or,
Well, that was my goal. Yeah. When I was divorced, I had a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old, and I felt very strongly that I wasn't going to work outside of my home, but I knew I needed to work. So for me, it's been 8 years of consistent movement as a stay-at-home mom to be able to build my businesses in accordance to my family's needs and my own desires and my own inspirations that God's given to me. And I bring them along with me. I really believe that we can bring our kids with us as we as moms learn how to step into our purposes and passions. I think the days are going to get harder, and our kids need to really see and watch us experience how to be in the family and also out in the world, at the same time.
Well, and I believe the mom is the best teacher in those types of things, that they have a power and they have an ability to teach their children how to be more than what they are, how to interact with people and all those things. So I love that you're doing that. So talked about being divorced, and I guess I'll just talk about you as an educator. How did you come to your current educational philosophy of wanting to help and do all these things for so many people?
I think I am LDS, and I think that played a part in it because when I was, I'll just share one story. I actually was a kind of a troubled child. I had my sister died drowned in our pool when I was 10. And so from that point, we moved actually from Las Vegas to Fallbrook in Southern California. And at that point, my parents really struggled, obviously, with mourning. They were in a lot of grief. And I remember I was the oldest. I am the oldest. And so I took a lot of responsibility on myself. And so when I was 12, I detached from everything. I started drinking, and I was sexually active at a very young age, and drugs and that kind of thing. And so for me, there was actually 2 stories. One was I had an interesting experience when I can't remember if I was 15 or 16, I was at a big party. I had been drinking, and I had been drinking a lot, and I could drink a lot back then. I'm kind of a decent sized girl, so I could hold my alcohol pretty well. And sorry not to be, but I could. And I remember standing behind this couch in this house, and people were everywhere. And I all of a sudden felt that I was outside of myself, and I could feel my divinity in that moment. I felt that I was something more that I didn't understand at that time, but it's even hard for me to explain in words. I knew that I was not that person that was drinking. I knew that I wasn't alcohol. I knew that there was something in me that I was supposed to do in this life at that moment. And from that point, it really started changing things. I stopped drugs all by myself. Nobody knew I was doing drugs in my family. Nobody knew I was partying and doing all that stuff. I stopped all by myself one day. I was doing crystal meth for a couple of years, and I just
Holy
decided
cow.
to stop. And again, I know it's the grace of God that allowed me this strength that God let me see inside of myself at that moment. And then I also had an occurrence. I went to it was called State Conference, and I was 17, I believe. I never can remember if I was 17 or 18, but I didn't really want to go, and I hadn't really been going to church. My dad wasn't a member of the church, and he wasn't, really into praying. We never really prayed as a family or did any of that stuff, so I didn't grow up in that. But my mom really wanted to go to the state conference, and so I said, okay, there's like hundreds and hundreds of people at this huge meeting, and I felt I was battling inside the car. My mom went in, and I really started understanding that there was something pulling me, wanting me to stay in the car and not go in there. I could feel that there was something kind of dark, or like
a physical force, it sounds like.
It was an actual physical force that kept me.
Wow.
It actually makes me emotional when I think about it. But anyway, I got in there, and I don't even remember how I got in there. And back then what they did is the stake president would ask, and he was like the president over that whole congregation. They would call 3 people up to bear their testimony, or basically share what they felt about Christ and about God and all this stuff. Well, I didn't have a testimony. I didn't even really understand what all that meant. And I was called up. I was one of the 3 out of like 1,000. Yeah, out of like 1,000 people. And I went up and I just mumbled. I didn't know what I was talking about. But after, the stake president, again, who was a very, very amazing man, he motioned me to come up to sit next to him. And I sat next to him. And this story always like really gets me. Sorry. It was a moment of my whole eternity, I feel like. He looked me in the eyes and he said, Jennifer, you're going to go on a mission. You just need to stay morally clean and out of debt. But when he told me that I was going to go on a mission, it wasn't just a mission for my church. It was actually a mission in my life. I felt God telling me that I was here to do something great, and that I was here there was a purpose for me on this planet. And from that point on, I worked hard. I did stuff. I didn't get to go on a mission until I was about 22 and a half, and I went to Romania. I speak Romanian and was able to go there and serve God and give back. I felt because he saved me from getting pregnant or, getting totally addicted to drugs, I actually felt it was my way to give back to God, to go on this mission. So really from that point, around 18 is when I just knew that I was supposed to be a teacher, and that I was supposed to teach what I knew and what I learned. I was supposed to teach from my experiences. And it's not it wasn't a common thing back then. I felt a lot of insecurities. I had a lot of my own things that I had to work through. But now, as I'm 40 now, the last couple of years, I feel like God has really allowed my voice to come out and just share from who I am. I don't feel like I have to be any perfect person to be able to educate people. I feel like the education is just for me being me. And then people can choose to listen or not listen. It's up to them. But I know that I have to follow whatever God wants me to do every moment of the day. So I've been that's what I do. I have all these things going on. I work with prosperity, with money stuff with people. We have programs for that. We have our No Porn Club. We have our recovery. We have our I Love My Body diet. We have our mastermind. There's so much going. The heart's knit, but it's all in perfect union because it's really just me being me.
Wow. That is awesome. That is a great story. So, that covers quite a few questions that I had about, how you came to this and all of that. But, other than the stake president kind of pulling you aside and telling you how to mission, what is some other advice that you received that maybe helped change your life and move you in a good direction?
Well, one of my mentors actually is Mother Teresa. I read her bibliography. Can't remember who wrote her bibliography. It's been probably about 6 years ago. But I really feel a kindred connection to Mother Teresa. As far as like, where did I learn, or what has gotten me to do what I'm doing, or who I am? I feel like people like her, Napoleon Hill, like I talked about, I've read a lot of his stuff. I feel like though all of it has been my connection to God. I honestly, as I read different books, the scriptures, all these different things that keep coming into my life, I educate myself, I read, I went to junior college. I was not a good student, not just because I got like a 0.8 in high school. I wasn't somebody who could sit in class. It drove me nuts. And when I went, I actually felt, okay, well, I have to go to junior college. I have to, get educated in that way. And I went to junior college, to 2 different junior colleges for 5 years. And I had like 90 credits and still didn't get my AA. And I used to have a lot of shame around that. I actually used to hang my head and be embarrassed when I said that. But now what I do is I realized my education came from my experiences and I learn. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name right now. I'm sorry, but there's a really amazing mentor that said, you know, the two greatest ways to learn are from the books you read and the people you associate with.
Oh, yeah.
And I really believe, Charlie Tremendous Jones said that. And that's just been, to me, that truly has been the way I've educated and learned, is through the books I've read and the people I know.
And then also the lives that you touch, I'm sure, because you take that knowledge that you have and somehow talking about inspiration and stuff, that you're connected with people that maybe need to hear your message. Mm-hmm. So,
you know, again, I just put one foot in front of the other, honestly. I mean, I have a lot of goals. I'm a visionary, so I see things that are going to happen in the future for me, or that can happen if I make a choice to move towards it. So I'm a huge person I hold visions very sacred. And so I have a vision, and like I've seen visions with the mastermind. I saw a global mastermind about 3 years ago, and now it's already happening. We're starting to do it online. I didn't know it was going to be online at the time. So for me too, that's another way that I strive to allow those to be kind of the beacon, and then I move towards it. So
that's great. Before we go on, let us take a minute and hear about our sponsors.
Hey fire starters, are you looking for a new way to listen to the Luminous Mind? Try listening on Stitcher. Haven't heard of Stitcher? Think of it as radio on demand. You can listen to the Luminous Mind anytime, anywhere. There is no downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Just stream your favorite podcasts such as The Luminous Mind. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad, and also from your favorite internet browser. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And make sure you rate and review The Luminous Mind so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.
Welcome back to The Luminous Mind with Jennifer Lamprey. So you've talked a lot about your obstacles that you faced. What was the biggest obstacle maybe, and what did you learn from that struggle that you had?
Probably my biggest obstacle has been the morality sexual part, because I was molested and stuff when I was younger, and I was sexually active at a very young age with, you know, men that were a lot older than me. I was married to, you know, somebody who had an addiction to pornography. And then I'm now in a marriage with a man who's in recovery. So I would say that if I were to think of any obstacle, challenge has been in my life, it's been that. It's actually made me who I am today. I have learned, I've learned probably more about myself through that avenue than any other avenue that I can say. And one of the biggest obstacles too is divorce. I mean, when you're divorced, and especially when you make, you know, we talk about, we get sealed for eternity in our church, and so that sealing is very sacred to me, and I honored that. And it was like I was a huge failure. I remember, that was a crazy time when I had to make that decision. But those obstacles have taught me how to be responsible and how to have boundaries, how to love myself through boundaries. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say probably, because it's infused everything in my life, this like morality part, it's definitely been. And that's why I think I'm such an advocate, and I'm so open. I even talk to my girls about this stuff a lot. I'm very open about, you know, even pornography stuff and the virtue part and how we treat our bodies and how we talk about our bodies. And when I don't talk about my body well, we talk about that. I'm very open about that because I want them to have a lot of tools in their toolbox, because it's been such an obstacle in my life. I feel like they can learn from me, especially my kids, more than anyone.
Well, and you were talking about, before we started recording, power of the virtue piece that you're doing. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? I mean, we talked about how you said the pornography thing isn't really, people aren't very open about it. I mean, I really think that maybe one of the reasons why is that it doesn't seem like a bad thing in our society anymore. What's your experience with that, and then how the virtue ties into that?
One of the things that I've, over just, again, a lot of study, prayer, and wanting to create more to support people, one of the books that really stood out to me was Gordon B. Hinckley's Standing for Something. Have you read that?
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, I was in Mexico. My parents have a place there, and I was there, and it was when I was divorced, and I can't remember if I was pregnant or not. No, I wasn't pregnant, obviously. I can't remember. Anyway, I was sitting there, and I was praying and pondering about what I was going to do. What avenue could this voice of morality come out? And I found Standing for Something my mom had there in our bookshelf in Mexico in our place. And I started reading that, and that was years ago. And it actually it's the 10 virtues. And what I realized as I read that book and have really studied and really applied the virtues in my life, I realized that is the answer, and that is virtue. Meaning virtue, to me, what I've found is like the power of God, meaning all of his characteristics, all of it come through this, like, I think of virtue as like a space holder. And you have all of God's virtues, or all of his characteristics, all of his everything that is good, that is God, comes through this funnel of virtue. And these 10 things that Gordon B. Hinckley talks about are the keys to create virtue in our lives, to create that funnel that actually allows us to be lights to the world, to be able to step up and be who he wants us to be in this life. So I found that pornography and immorality and all these things are actually one of the bigger things that really take away and deaden that space, or they can really shrink the virtue funnel, if you want to put it like that. I don't know. And that's why I've really focused too, not besides my own experiences, but I feel like God wants people to understand that as we make these choices of looking at things and hearing things and being more and more aware, there's progress in that. There's steps, because once we're aware of one thing, then we start seeing, oh, wait, this doesn't fit in with what I'm feeling right now. This doesn't bring me peace. And then we can go a step further. And then we keep peeling these things away from us that are keeping us from having our virtue very prominent and very strong. I feel like pornography is one of those things that literally will take all of that away from us. We shrink in shame in kind of a dark hole is what I picture. My thing is step into these 10 virtues. We talk about those things, and as you step into those 10 virtues, you can step out of that black hole. You become more aware of your environment. And see, I know that I can't tell people what to do, but I can lead by example and then share what I've learned. So I don't know if that answers your question, or if you have maybe another question to that. But
I'm going to tell you a little bit of my own philosophy on virtue and then see what you think about that. But, as a girl, I remember hearing all the time, to keep yourself virtuous and stuff at church. And I always thought that it went with morality. I always put that word with morality. And then as I've been studying the scriptures, I remember the passage that talks about how when Jesus was in that throng of people and they were crowding around him, and he had the lady that had the issue of blood touch his garment, and he said that he felt virtue leave him. And I think that gave me a different definition for virtue, and how they do coincide together in a way that the virtue that he was talking about was basically the power that healed this lady. But they do go together. If you have experiences that don't keep that virtue or that cleanliness about your life, you do lose that power. Does that go in?
Yeah. No, actually, we've done some speaking engagements. We've talked about that exact story that you're talking about. What we've realized is that when we have virtue, we have the ability to touch people in a way that can heal them. We can be conduits for the healing of Christ and for God. So really we become like Christ, where people can touch what we're saying and they can be healed, or they can go on a path of healing that they weren't on before. So I really believe virtue is exactly what you said. It is the power. It is a power that allows God's works, who he is, to come through on the earth. I really believe that. I really love what you said, so thank you. I do believe, is my experience, and I agree. I think why it's been so linked, Rebecca, is because it really is linked. Meaning morality is one of the 10 virtues. But morality, and they talk about lust being one of the 7 deadly, it's the most deadly of the 7 sins. When you think about that, and lust can mean a lot of things. You can lust after a lot of stuff besides just the sexual part. But I've noticed people that I've worked with drug addiction. I've worked with a lot of different things. And I've noticed when people are not staying strong in that morality place, meaning they are not living in that place of integrity, that actually virtue it's dampened even more, meaning the power of God, it can really stifle it more than I've seen anything else. And it actually is, immorality is a cause of many other things. So we have a lot of people in our addiction groups that come that have worked with, the drugs and alcohol, and they've gotten off of them. And they say pornography is like the hardest thing to get off of more than anything else they've experienced. And again, I know addiction, you can be in an addiction cycle and you can go from one addiction to another, but they have been very serious that immorality and that part of us, it's like that last piece for a lot of people. And I think that's why it's been so prominent in these days. It's that last piece to keep people from really truly stepping up in their voices that God wants them to be, or us all to be.
And having that full power, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's just my belief and my experience.
Wow. That was great. So we've talked about some of your successes. Do you want to go into that a little more about successes that you've seen with people that have embraced your message?
Oh boy, gosh, one of the things that I've seen, gosh, there's a lot of stuff actually. But one thing that's coming to my mind, just even from the I Love My Body diet, when I think about all the women, I've been hearing tons of, women are naturally sharing it. And when people naturally share that they're really getting something out of it that's really true to them and they're having true progression and healing. One of the things I've noticed is that women are feeling that they can be them and be okay with themselves, meaning one of the exercises in I Love My Body diet is being present. So one day, one of the exercises, you actually sit for 10 minutes and you be present with who you are at this moment. And that exercise is very difficult for a lot of people because when you're in it, you realize how much we're thinking of the future or the past. We're not thinking of the present and who we are right now and accepting that person because we don't want to accept that person because we don't love that person. So what I found is a lot of women are starting to realize that they can love themselves even while they're sick, even while they're 400 pounds, even while they're, all this stuff. And it pushes, what I've noticed is a lot of women, we ask them to do videos and to post, a lot of women post these 25 things I love about myself. And we challenge women inside the groups to do it on their actual Facebook walls. And one woman in particular actually just said, she was on a few different calls we've had that are public that I do. And she said, my life in 2 weeks has changed. She said, I completely feel all the dreams that I've had and things, I feel like I can now have them. They were just so far out there. So what I've seen is women stepping into that. I've also seen that as you come together and feel that you're worth something and you're heard, when anybody can feel or be in that, all of a sudden, the world is like their playground. They can create what they want, and they feel that they're co-creators with God, that God is giving them those inspirations for a purpose, that they're here for a purpose. So I see women and men going out and actually starting to fulfill their purposes in a way that they weren't able to do before. They actually start creating, for instance, a mastermind calls when you have a love seater. The last few mastermind calls we've had literally, people will share maybe a cool, .com or I can't think of the name of it right now. But so we've had two women on one call went right out and bought their domain names that night. And one woman already started a group for ADHD for giving more. And it was from the mastermind that this came out. And she now has, I think, 100 something members all over the world. This was just in 2 weeks this happened. Wow. And people are getting support around ADHD. They are actually coming to, it makes me very emotional actually when I think about it. The power of just doing this free mastermind call and letting people know that they're heard and that what they have to say means something and it can affect people. And she's out there doing it. And she's giving this positive spin on ADHD now. Wow. She's letting people embrace ADHD and say, who are you and what has ADHD done for you? So, I have tons of examples, but that's just a few that's coming to my mind right now.
Instead of looking at it as a negative thing, I think that's how we see so many things, that it's some sort of a challenge that needs to be overcome instead of something that needs to be embraced. I love what you're saying. I think as women, as mothers, many times that we can't see the clear vision that God has for us or be able to act on our full mission when we have that stuff blocking. And I think everybody has it.
Everybody.
I don't care who you are. You've got something somewhere that you're telling yourself, and you may not even know it, that you can accomplish it. And that's really what's stopping you. Not necessarily the outside obstacles, but what's going on the inside.
Yeah.
So
I think we do look outside for approval and for our healing and for all of that. And not saying that we shouldn't look on the outside, but I think as we start focusing on the inner self and who we really are and our anchor inside of ourselves, that we do get to tap into that God lives in all of us, that we are divine, that we truly are his children, and that we can then from that place make actions. I actually just had a call, I was sharing with you around faith to be healed. And I realized this morning that faith truly is in our actions. As we act, that's how we create more faith, and that's how we can be healed. That's how we can heal the world. That's how we can do our work, how we can be happy, peaceful. And so I have a real belief in that.
Yeah. And faith, it's not necessarily a religious thing. I mean, it takes faith to study, to know that you're going to get an end product, from that study. It takes faith to, even planting a seed, to know that it's going to grow. Each one of us has amount of faith in us. We just have to understand the power of that, I would think.
I think we learn about ourselves, and I totally agree with you. And I actually feel bad at times that faith is only that people connect it so deeply to like religion or something, which I'm grateful for on one side. On the other side, I think more people, if they stepped into understanding that faith is truly that part of us that can move stuff. It's what gets us moving.
Yeah, taking the first step without...
Yeah, exactly.
Without seeing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So what are some personal habits that you think help make people successful? We talked about, changing the mindset.
Well, I'm a big believer in following an inspiration, like I've shared already many times. I feel that, so that's one of the things, but probably one of my most important things is, like I said, collaboration. Actually, Stephen R. Covey talks about it in his 8th habit. He talks about that's one of the most important things that we're finding in society now is collaboration and community and coming together. And we're going to find that that's what we're needing to do. I definitely have seen that. When I say collaboration, I mean even with God. I mean even with myself. Collaboration to me is not just about, again, going outside of self. It's even collaborating with myself. I feel also getting support systems. I know in the recovery world, most people succeed when they've had an accountability or a sponsor. I believe in accountability huge. Actually, it's one of the main components of our virtual mastermind we're going to be starting is that accountability piece where we become accountable to one another and get support from one another. So I honestly don't believe I could even be where I'm at right now without the support of everybody around me. There's no way. There's no way. So I would say that would be one thing that I would recommend people do daily is reach out to others and ask. Be an ask. And asking is a hard thing for a lot of people, but I'm a big person. And asking means even just stepping out of our comfort zone and making a call to somebody and, saying, hey, I'm dealing with this right now. Would you just listen? Can you just be an ear for a minute? I talk about different support groups too. So you even have like for your health and for your business, you have about 6 people that you can trust that you're supporters. So building that, it takes time because you have to go through a lot of even layers of yourself, of trust issues and, loving yourself and all these things. But as you go through that and you have the goal of having supporters in your life around different aspects of yourself, you cannot not succeed. There's no way not to.
Yeah. Well, and that comes, I know I have a hard time letting down that pride, of going, I do need help with this.
Oh, yeah.
I have a little thing on my board that I'm staring at right now that says some battles are best fought with an army of friends. And I think that, kind of going along with what you're saying is that sometimes you're more successful when you gather people around you to help you out with those things.
I would gather to say every time you're successful, it's almost like a must. I've found, because again, we're not just talking about friends, but we're talking about our friend, our Savior, and our Heavenly Father, and it talks about having a prayer in our hearts. Always. There's a reason for that. That really is, we're never alone. We're always supposed to be collaborating with somebody, somehow, sometime. Whether it's with God, with our inner self, or those around. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. I love that you have that up. So true.
I love that you talk about collaboration with God because I never really thought about that. But if you are to be successful, you've got to get his input on things. So, what are some long-term goals that you have for yourself? Maybe some things that you're most excited about that you're doing, and then long-term goals that are going to, push those things forward.
Yeah. Well, like I talked about, I actually was in the temple, which is in our church. We have a temple that we go to, and it's a really sacred environment. It's a really quiet place. And I was working in there one day in December when I started this I Love My Body diet program, and I had a very clear vision that there were going to be a certain amount of women getting healing and become unified as just themselves, being themselves and being free to be real. And so one of my main goals is the 1 million women strong. The other one that I have is I really encourage my daughters to be entrepreneurs and also to go on missions. So those are 2 things, obviously, to get married and to, have a family. And I think that's just a given. I think as I'm living that they can see that, and we talk about that. But I would say kind of outside of that are the two things of them going on missions and serving God and feeling what that looks like and experience that at a young age. And then being entrepreneurs. I want them to be able to do that with their passions, like finding their passions. So that definitely is another, I guess, I don't know if that's long term. It's pretty, I mean, I have one that's 12 and one that's 9 and then 2.5. But, and then another thing that I see is I just want to serve with my husband. I see us going out and really, it's funny. I have long-term goals, but when I'm thinking about it right now, honestly, I feel like it's just following every inspiration. I've said that so many times already, but it really is. As I make those goals, and I make little goals often, and the long-term goals are really I just want to stand in front of God and Him say that, "Thank you, my good and faithful servant." I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it really truly is what I crave. I crave that. It's all I know. It's all I know to do every day is to do that. So
that is awesome. Thank you. So what advice or encouragement would you give to somebody who wants to start out kind of changing the direction of their life?
Oh, I would find a mentor. I would find something. I would have people go into the I Love My Body Diet program, not just because it's mine, but because it's truly inspired. It actually gets you doing all of these things I'm talking about. I would join a mastermind, or we have the virtual mastermind, or find something around you. I would step out of even your comfort zone. So a lot of people I know in my church, we get very comfortable. I think we have our communities that we're very involved in all in the world, not just our church. I'm just saying in general. And I say step out of that and make a friend somewhere else, go to a different organization, meeting, go to a different place you haven't been before and experience something different, and trust that wherever you decide to go is where God wants you to be. Definitely, that's a good one.
I love that, because I think sometimes we feel comfort and safety in the groups that we hang with, but really growth comes from moving yourself outside of that. You really have to challenge your thinking, and that's wonderful.
When I talk about support groups, you want to have those support groups, but the only way to build your support groups is also to get outside of your support groups. You know what I mean? So, or those few people. So it's really allowing that wholeness, the wholeness of life.
Yeah. So do you have any resources that you want to share?
Well, like I said, I definitely, go to my website and I have the I Love My Body Diet on there. It's $37 a month. It's I felt to make it really affordable. And then, like I said, the My Mastermind Nation is going to be starting. We're going to launch it March 15th. There's so many different groups. I believe in using social media in the positive way, like I said. So I would get on a very positive Facebook group and start interacting. That's what I would recommend. There's so many other people, and I think once you get in it, even contacting me or going on my page and seeing, going through people that you admire, people that you go, okay, I like what they're saying, I want to see what else is going on in their lives. You'll see that, for me, I'm connected to a lot of different things and organizations and people, and I support them in that. And so you'll be able to find even what might fit you, what that next step would be for you. So as far as resources, I would say that, we're going to have a lot of different websites ourselves. Yeah, gosh, there's so many. I'm going through the prosperity stuff, and then I'm going through the Heart's Knit, and I'm going through all this stuff. If you're in recovery, we also have a blogspot.com. It's Days of Our Recovery. My husband and I have been writing daily in a blog. So daysofourrecovery.blogspot.com. And then I would read Think and Grow Rich. That's probably I feel like, as far as getting out there in the world and understanding more about collaboration, which seems to be the theme we've been talking about, I would be reading Think and Grow Rich. We're actually going to be putting that a free download on our website when it gets running, our My Mastermind Nation. So you'll be able to get that on there. But I think you can get it free anywhere right now, pretty much.
That's great. So before we say goodbye, do you want to tell us, and this is the big question, if you could leave a legacy, what would it be?
Or to leave No, I've thought about this actually. There's actually a few things. For me, it would be, sorry, I get emotional, so I have to hold back my tears. It would be that I was able to really help families heal and not get divorced. That would be probably one of that actually people were feeling wholer and were able to create better relationships inside their families and outside in their communities because I was on the planet, because I even existed. Yeah, I think that would be one of the main ones.
That would be an awesome legacy. So thank you. And I know you've given us contact information on how to get a hold of you before, but do you want to give that again, or give us any additional?
It's just my website right now is just jenniferlamprey.com. And then in the next week, I'm going to have ilovemybodydiet.com, and then mymastermindnation.com will be coming up next week, because we're going to be launching a couple of those things. And we'll be creating a membership, a monthly membership, that our goal is 5,000 members by 2000 for the 2017 for the I Love My Body diet, but mainly just to get people. We're going to have content and experts, and I mean, there's going to be so much going on in the membership. It's going to be like thousands of dollars of worth of information and content and connection for $15. So that'll be happening too in about a month. If you go on my website, you'll start seeing what's going to be coming up, and I'll be sharing on there.
That's great. Well, and hopefully I can get all those links from you. We'll post them with notes for the show. And I just have really enjoyed talking to you. I feel like I've been very inspired, and I'm sure our listeners will too. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate you doing what you're doing. I really think again, you're giving people voice and having a space where people can share their voice. So I thank you for my sick voice right now, which is really interesting. That my voice is it's like half of it at its capability, but I appreciate you doing that. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Jennifer, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Also, be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list so you can receive our weekly audio blog, The Spark. We would love to have you join our program. Do so by going to the scheduling tab and become a fire starter today. Help support the podcast by making all your Amazon purchases through the free Amazon widget on our website, theluminousmind.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Leave us a review. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.